You're listening to the Martin Clinic Wellness Podcast. This is the show where we bring you the best tips, tricks, and nutritional hacks to help you and your family get healthier. You will also hear what works and doesn't work so that you don't have to waste your time and money. All right, let's get started. Hello, my name is Dr. Tony Martin Jr., the Martin Clinic, and I'm here with my dad, Dr. Tony Martin Sr., also of the Martin Clinic. And on this episode today, we're going to talk about a few things. But first, let's start off by talking about that study that was done recently on the protein requirement in women. Now, before we get into the study a little bit, protein is probably one, out of the three macros, for example, protein, fat, carbohydrates, protein is probably, well, not probably, it is the one that gives the biggest issue for women, meaning they just do not get enough protein. Women in general, you see this when you analyze the tens of thousands of people that come into our clinic and the diets and that, women just do not get enough protein.
Yeah. And they're scared of protein.
They're scared of protein. And let's just say this, first of all, nobody overeats protein. No. I mean, I don't know how those studies came out or how the notion came out that protein is hard in the kidneys, but that's been shown to be garbage.
It's the opposite.
Yeah, that's right. Only an end stage, actual kidney disease, end stage, then you got to worry about real high levels of protein. But for the average person listening to this episode, and especially females,
you're not getting enough.
You're not. Oh, yeah. Chances are you're not eating enough, and there are multiple reasons for that. Right? I mean, a lot of women don't eat meat at all. So even if they're vegetarian, they struggle to get the amount of protein in because there's not a lot of, the foods that they choose to eat in a day are not generally high protein
and
foods.
How many beans are you eating? Right?
Well, and that's the thing, right? I mean, they're just not getting enough They're not getting enough protein at all in their diet.
They think they are, but they're not.
No,
right?
that's right.
Nowhere near it.
No, they're not getting enough protein. So, and this is something that we see all the time. And I mean, there are some serious end of life issues with protein. Now, protein intake is one of those things that may not affect you as much. It might with body composition and stuff like that, but it won't affect you as much as it does on the back end of your life.
Sarcopenia.
Yeah, it's just
muscle weakness.
So much muscle wasting. One of the biggest issues as you age is muscle wasting. And you see that, right? I mean, you and I, we'll go for coffee. You see a lot of seniors, they could barely push up out of a chair, and they're in their 70s. Yeah. And they just have no muscle. They got sarcopenia. And sarcopenia does not occur in a vacuum. And what do we mean by that? If you have muscle loss, you also have bone loss. Yeah. You have osteoporosis. They really should be together. I mean, one is not. There's no such thing as a person who has sarcopenia and not some form of osteoporosis. They go hand in hand. Yeah. So if your muscles are wasting, your bones are wasting.
Yeah. And how do you make muscle? From food.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, so, as we mentioned right off the top, women generally don't get enough protein. And I think part of the problem, again, is we're going to talk about this now, is the recommended daily amount for protein is so low. Yeah. It's so low. So anyways, a new study, and I found this very interesting. What they did is they used a new technique. Well, it's not new, but they used, it's called the indicator amino acid technique. And basically what they found, and I find this interesting, is what they found is that the recommended amounts for women are very low. They're off. Women, and they've tested this, women need more protein than what they were recommended. For example, the protein requirement for women right now is anywhere between 0.66 and 0.8 grams
per
kilogram. Yeah. So if you're a 150-pound female, that's about 68 kgs, I think. So they recommend anywhere between 45 and 54 grams of protein a day.
That's not much.
No, that's not much at all, right? And what they're finding out, if you were to get that, and the funny thing is, a lot of women don't even get 54 grams of protein in a day. They just don't. If you analyze their diet, they have a hard time hitting that, right? They just don't. They don't get that. So what happens is that even if you were to hit that amount, even if you were to hit the 0.8, which is the high end of the recommended amount of protein intake for women, you would still have problems at the back end of your life with muscle wasting and those kind of things. But anyways, with this new this new technique that they use, and again, it's not a new technique, but they in the study, what they found is that the actual amount is much higher. They found it to be between 0.96 to 1.29 grams per kg. So now, if you are if you're that 150-pound female, you'll need anywhere between 65 grams and 87 grams per day.
And women are not hitting that. The vast majority.
Oh no, they're not even coming close to that, right?
Yeah.
And that is just the minimum amount, right? If you want to build muscle, if you want to
Strong bone.
you want to prevent a lot of these issues, then you need more protein than that for sure.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you absolutely do. I mean, think about it. If you're a 150-pound female and they're saying that you need up to 87 grams based on this new thing, I mean, that's not even 30 grams to 3 meals a day. I mean, that's not a lot of protein.
No.
And what's interesting is, we could talk about protein for a whole podcast just by itself, because research has shown that if you don't consume more than 20 grams at one sitting, you're not stimulating that protein synthesis. You're not stimulating, so you need more protein at a sitting than people think you do. So, like if you get up in the morning, you have a yogurt, and a coffee, you're just not getting enough protein. You're not getting enough protein. So if you're a female listening to this, one of the things that we would definitely challenge you on is, set some protein targets and hit it.
Mm-hmm.
Track your protein a little bit. Just for the next couple days, track how much protein you're actually eating. And you'll be surprised that you're not getting as much as you think you are. And that is absolutely leading to issues later in life. No question.
Yeah.
In fact, if we were to kind of say that, sarcopenia is a major end-of-life problem for people. That's the beginning of the end for a lot of people. When they start getting muscle wasting and osteoporosis, they have falls, they break things. It's the beginning of the end for a lot of people.
Yeah, all the quality of life goes downhill, right?
100%. So the two things that we would just challenge you on is this. Get more protein and lift weights.
Yeah.
Because if aging, a massive part of aging is, especially when it comes to quality of life, is the loss of muscle mass. And after a certain age, you lose a percentage of muscle every year.
No matter what.
We would strongly encourage you that if you want to age well, like true anti-aging advice would be to increase your protein intake. And the second thing would be to lift weights. Do some resistant exercises.
And, and ladies, listen, as we talk about this, look, sometimes to get up to the levels you want, there's nothing wrong with having a whey protein isolate, or do you know what I mean? You can take it. And there's some really good proteins around. We have a great protein.
We have a fantastic protein, high, pure.
Yeah.
It boosts glutathione. It does a lot of really good things. Yeah. So if you can't consume whey protein, because there are a lot of people that have a hard time with whey. I was reading a study just last week, and it's amazing. Pea protein is just as effective, or even slightly more in some areas as whey protein. So you can get, the downside is they can't make pea protein taste good. Well, I shouldn't say that. It's much more difficult to make it taste good. Like those whey proteins that are out there, some of them are I can't handle whey, so I don't consume whey protein.
Yeah.
But I always get whey protein envy. I mean, they'll make these smoothies, and you could do a lot with whey protein. Now, I'll use I use a couple different types of proteins. I can handle goat protein, like goat whey. No, I have no issue handling that. I can like I said, a lot of the pea proteins, and I can handle those things. So you got to be a little bit more creative to add some flavoring to them in a sense, right? Yeah. You got to be a little bit more creative when it comes to that. But like you said, we would strongly encourage you to start adding, if you're female, add at least one shake a day. If you're not getting enough in your meals, add a shake a day. That would go a long way towards helping protein intake. So again, that we saw that study, and that's something that you see in the office all the time.
Yeah. And they always ask me the question about, protein, because they're always so worried, right? It's amazing how upside
I don't know
down
how that
we are in
happened.
this
I
world.
know it's
Like, we got lied to so much. Like now it's you got to deprogram people. Look, you can have a lot more protein and eat a lot less carbohydrate, right? You just got to turn it around on them, show them. We talk about insulin, we talk about, all your hormones, and we show you how to eat for your hormones. And boy, you better lower those carbohydrates, get your insulin down, increase your protein levels. It's amazing how the body doesn't work without those amino acids and all of the amino acids, right? Your body needs, they're your building blocks of your body, right?
and again, like even when it comes to, they fill you up so much more, right, than carbohydrates. They got a real big.
They got a good burn rate.
Yeah, they do.
They take a longer time to burn.
That's right.
out.
They're thermogenic.
Yeah.
They require more energy to burn. So you burn more energy burning protein, right? So, there are some advantages even metabolically to consuming protein. There's no question. Now, one of the things that, again, that I find interesting is if you look at all the diets that are out there, for example, this just came up today because, someone was asking about pancreatitis, and their doctor put them on a low-fat diet, right? So here's here's a female. She in her late 50s, early 60s, and she's got pancreatitis. So her doctor says, hey, go on a low-fat diet. And here's the problem with that. Well, there's a few problems with that.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the issues here is that here's somebody who probably already is consuming not enough protein. So when you tell somebody to go on a low-fat diet, what happens? So you have 3 macros, right? Well, they'll bring their fat down to about 20-25% of their dietary calories. Protein will stay the same. Most women consume between 18 and 22%. That's it. So basically what you're doing then is you're basically telling somebody to go on a high-carb diet, because they're not making it up, because
they don't make it up in
no, and they're going to associate protein and fat, right? Well, I can't eat the meat because it's got some fat in it, so I better cut meats out, right? So what happens is that kind of advice inadvertently actually causes a high carbohydrate diet, a real high. If the doctor would have said, and I disagree with it flat out, but if the doctor would have said go on a low fat, high protein, lowish carb, okay, we can live with that. But that's not what it is, because so they say go on a low fat diet. So, and we've seen this so many times over the years, many times. When somebody's on a low fat diet, they really shouldn't call it a low fat diet, because what they're really doing is consuming a high carb diet.
Yeah.
Their calories are 50-60%
from carbohydrates.
From carbohydrates.
Yeah.
So they're on a high carb diet. And correct me if I'm wrong on this. Let's just correct me if I'm wrong. If somebody has pancreatitis and they're, they got an itis of the pancreas, right? They got an infection. It's inflamed. It's irritated. Whenever I use the word itis, I always kind of it's angry. Yeah. It's mad at you, right? Everything irritates it. Well, what stimulates the pancreas more than anything else?
Carbohydrates.
It doesn't make any sense. If you want to shut down that pancreas as much as possible, then it seems when you tell somebody to go low fat and you don't say to them, but don't go higher in carbohydrates, then I don't know. It just, to me, it's just, when you give advice like that, you have to be careful, because you're inadvertently going to have them eat more carbohydrates. We see it all the time.
Yeah, and you'll actually make the pancreatitis
That's
worse.
right. You'll make it worse because, again, and we know this because we've analyzed so many diets and so many patients and so much data. We know a low-fat diet means a high-carb diet.
Yeah.
So you look at that and you're saying, doesn't make the most sense. But anyway, so we just wanted to share that information with you about protein. Now, for the last 5 or 6 minutes, let's talk a little bit. Let's switch gears a little bit here. And, we were talking off air about chronic fatigue syndrome. Now, again, those of you who've been with us for a while, you know the story of how we became what we became, why we do what we do, right? Many of you know the story of my mother, your wife. And chronic fatigue syndrome hits home personally for us. It's a personal issue because, we've shared this before, but it's worth saying. I remember having a mom that was running miles every day to unable to get out of bed, drained, nothing left, right? So it's a very personal issue. So chronic fatigue for us is a very personal, very personal thing.
Yeah.
And,
That's why we became experts in it, right?
my mom, she had chronic fatigue syndrome before they even knew what it was. I mean, how do you get a diagnosis on something? And that's a frustrating process for people as well, right?
Well, they didn't know what to look for, right? They always, I mean, you can understand doctors. I mean, they're looking at, they're looking for disease. They're looking at blood work. Then they do MRIs and they do all the stuff. And then when they can't find anything, at least nothing traditional, is it autoimmune? Is it MS? Is it lupus? Is it, they want to eliminate all that because those are all things that mimic, right? A lot of the symptoms are very similar to that. So it becomes a frustrating. I think why I'm so passionate is because literally at the Martin Clinic, thousands, and I mean that it's not hundreds, it's thousands and thousands of women over the years, just because it's been a long time, that we have analyzed.
You made it your fight for a long time.
Yeah, and you know what? When you even think of what we do in our clinic today,
well, it came from that.
It came from that. It came from let's think outside the box. And when you look at our biomarkers, when
We're
you look
cause
at
and
what
effect
we do,
people.
Yep. What caused it?
Yeah, that's right. We don't.
Wasn't it fascinating though that that what we saw even back in the 80s and the early 1990s, when you think of where, I mean, even how much more we know today, but boy, we were onto the trail right out of the gate. Because I was the first guy.
I remember you had in one of your early books you had, and this is before. I mean, this is above my pay grade. This is before my time. I hadn't even graduated yet. So I remember you had a chart, and this is going way back when you were already starting to tie in the adrenal glands.
Yeah.
And this is
Nobody was thinking of that.
not at all. And this is long before, all this adrenal fatigue. And I know that's a controversial subject, but it's not in practice.
No.
And that's one of the things that drives me crazy, right? I mean, we see it. In fact, we built the whole course, the metabolic storm, around the adrenals, the ovaries, the thyroid, and we built a whole course program around those issues, right?
So a patient, not even a patient, just somebody that's a potential patient, finds out about me. I just want to tell you a little story, okay? And she's exhausted. She's losing weight. She doesn't feel good. She's had every test known to man that she knows about. And they can't find it. Her blood work is within normal limits. Everything that she's done so far, and this is a conversation that I had in the last 24 hours.
And how many times do you have that conversation?
Oh,
yeah.
I mean it.
We get those emails every day.
Oh, every day, right? And anyways, so I had a conversation with the lady, and I said, well, look, I'm just going to tell you what I think it is already. And I said, look, I wouldn't guess. I'm just going to give you a guesstimate. But I said, because I want you to be tested by me, by the clinic. But I said, in the meantime, I'll tell you what, has anybody tested your adrenal glands? And she said, what are those?
Yeah.
She said, well, I said, those are very important. Have they tested your cortisol levels? Have they talked to you about that? What? I don't even know what that is. I said, well, look, then you didn't get it tested. And I said, I'll tell you, unless I'm crazy, that's what your problem is. But I said, I want to see I want to test you. So anyway, I'm just telling you that our whole, raison d'etre, like the reason that we do what we do, a lot, it's true. It's really, and even the testing that we do in the office.
Yeah, it's cause and effect.
It's cause and effect. Yeah. I want to see, and I show people, it's incredible. I show people here's what's going on. And you can see it, right? And adrenal fatigue.
And we've done a lot of training on this. we do strongly believe that the body gives clues.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, and we call them check engine lights, right?
Yeah.
Your check engine light goes on in your car. Your car's trying to tell you something. You got to take it to a mechanic. They got to plug a computer into it. It spits out a code, and then it tells you, oh, you didn't tighten the gas cap. It's there's so many things that can cause it. Well, the body has check engine lights.
Yeah.
Low energy. Somebody who has normal energy, and all of a sudden their energy is not quite what it used to be, that's a check engine light.
Yeah,
your body's telling you something.
Exactly. Right.
And the problem is, how do you test for that? That's a difficult thing to test for, which is why we've kind of, over the years, honed down what we call our biomarker testing to look for things that can cause low energy.
Yeah.
But lack of sleep is another check engine light.
Yeah.
If you can't sleep at nighttime, that's a check engine light. Your body's saying, get checked out. There's something going on, right? Low energy.
Screaming at you. Digestive issues.
Yeah, that's right. There's your skin.
Yeah.
I mean, your skin is your largest organ in your body. So if you got skin issues, your largest organ is telling you there's something going on, right? So I mean, that's the thing.
You're losing weight or gaining weight.
So
those are, you haven't changed your diet, you're losing weight, gaining weight.
Yeah, all of a sudden, a person's eating the same way and they're gaining a lot of weight. For example, we have a lot of people in our metabolic storm program, and that's one of the things we heard over and over again, right? Nothing
unexplained.
All things being equal, they gained a lot of weight.
Yeah.
Your body is that's a check engine light. There's something going on there. Yeah. And for a lot of women, we call it a metabolic storm because
it's hormonal.
There's a hormonal issue going on. And it's such a great name because there is a metabolic storm going on inside them that needs to be fixed.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we want to thank you for joining us on this podcast episode. If you have any questions, you can get a hold of us by emailing us at info@martinclinic.com or you can visit our website at martinclinic.com.
Yeah, watch for our Facebook Live.
Yeah, you do a Facebook Live every Thursday. And we also have put together a free guide that we want to share with you. So if you're a woman who has hormonal issues or you're suspecting that you have hormonal issues, we have a free guide that we would love to give to you. And you can get that guide by going to our webpage and downloading it. And the name of the guide is actually what your doctors don't know about your hormones.
Okay.
So you can visit our website. You can grab that guide there. So again, we want to thank you for listening and have a great day. You've been listening to the Martin Clinic Wellness Podcast, brought to you by martinclinic.com. We are truly thankful that you took the time out of your busy day to listen. Talk soon.